Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a live stream and just a general Chelsea chat. We're in the midst of another international break, but it's been a pretty good start to the season. And there's even been some conversation from certain people that Chelsea could be in a title race. I think that's a little bit premature, but we're going to discuss that, break down the start to the season. Is Cole Palmer the best player in the world right now? Do Chelsea really have an Enzo Fernandez issue? We've got all this to dive into. Alex, great to have you on board, mate. We go to a lot of games, but I feel like it's been a while since we really chatted about Chelsea sort of in depth. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. Obviously we're sitting fourth now, first 7 games of the season. I think you could say that we've done better than perhaps many of us expected at this point in time.
I think that I didn't expect us to be where we are, in fairness. I'll be the first to say that. And I mean, if we backtrack in time when we had the manager search, remember how extensive it was when we were looking at Pochettino. Look how that worked out. And then we had the same problem with the manager search this summer. So everyone's looking at all the options and how we've gone from these managers, proven managers, to, let's be honest, championship managers. You're not exactly going to have a smile on your face, are you? It's quite concerning. But I think Enzo Maresca was always the best appointment out of the last options we were looking at. Thomas Frank, I don't see how he'd fit the style of what we're doing. De Zerbi would have fallen out with the boards. He does everywhere he goes. And then in terms of McKenna as well at Ipswich, just it doesn't fit what we're trying to do. So that we took a massive gamble. And so far it's paid off. I think it's been a breath of fresh air. I think that Maresca he's had enough to work with to implement what he needs to do. But if we're going to have that final push, I think he needs a little bit more. We don't lack quality, but I do think that, in some cases we just lack depth. And that's even with the depth that we have. So if we're going to have a top 4 push, for me, we just need to keep the players fit. If we can do that, it's not going to be a problem. But I think hand on heart, we all know that we're going to have some injuries. And that's where I'm really going to judge, how we adapt throughout the season. If we can go and, let's say Palmer's out for a couple of games, how do we handle that? How do we handle Gusto getting injured if Reece James is never available anyway? So lots of question marks for the future. For me personally, I still look at this team and I say a top 5 finish is realistic, which could still be Champions League football. But I'm not 100% set on top 4 just because we know with the injuries they can cause a lot of slip-ups.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I think like we started really well. There's no denying that. I also understand when people say we've not really faced anyone decent yet. I get that, and that is a fair point. And that point also applies to Liverpool. But you can only judge on what you've seen so far. And what we've seen so far has been impressive. We're scoring a lot of goals. Obviously, we're not top scorers in the league anymore. We're one behind City because we only scored once against Forest. But we're scoring a lot of goals. We look very dangerous going forward. The balance in the midfield seems to be a little bit better than it has been, certainly over the past season or so. And defensively, it feels like we have improved a little bit, but that's probably still the weakest area. What's impressed me most about Maresca, though, is how quickly he's been able to get his ideas across and how quickly sort of a clear identity and a clear style of play is formed. Because, it's not the finished article by any means, and there's still a long way to go and a lot of improvement to be made. But at the same time, 7 games in, I wasn't expecting it to be this obvious what we're looking to do, what we're trying to do. Because I think, a lot of the players are being asked to play roles and are being asked to play in a style that many of them have never done in their careers before. And yes, they're professional footballers, and yes, they're top level players, but that still takes an adjustment. So considering where he's come from, and his stature in the game, and the fact, that he's only got 1 season of senior managerial experience under his belt with Leicester last season, stepping into Chelsea, which has been a bit of a mess, if we're being totally honest, there's some great players there. It's very impressive what he's done. I mean, what have you been most impressed about by him?
Well, he's just so blunt. I mean, Poch was honest, wasn't he? Poch was very honest, but Maresca's so blunt, and I think that works very well when you're winning. I think when you're not winning, it can come across as rude, especially when fans want to know answers, So I think that there's still a lot to be said about Enzo Maresca. Like, I can't really say I love him because I haven't seen enough, but I love what I've seen so far. I'm with you on that. And he gives clarity to a lot of the situations that we've been wondering about. We said, well, Jamie Carragher said, where's everyone going to play? Enzo Maresca come out and said, well, you got 2 players on the left wing, 2 players on the right. Here's my 2 10s and my 2 strikers. I don't think Pochettino would have done that last season.
No.
It's a bit more wish-washy. So in that respect, I love what Maresca does there. I think he communicates very well, not even just with the press, but I think ultimately he's trying to speak to the fans. And that's the important part, isn't it? You don't get any flashy statements from him, but you just know what you need to know and what you want to know. And that's the most important thing. So we've got a manager who I think is very blunt, but he's not controversial.
No.
He's very much by the book, but he still shows passion as well. So we got a very, very interesting appointment. I hope we can keep it going. I mean, fucking hell, Charlie, you've given the guy a 5-year contract with a year to extend. So really, we're looking at a give or take a 6-year contract.
He's not going to be here 6 years. Let's be honest. We all know he's not going to be here 6 years.
They can't afford to sack him, Charlie.
No, certainly not after like 1 or 2 seasons.
But I'm not trying to speak like this. Like, I'm not. No. By the way, I'm not trying to say it, but I'm just saying. So there's been a lot of faith put in this manager. So wherever we finish realistically, you can't get rid of him, and they won't, because I think that now that they have someone who is collaborative, sees the game the same way they want to, i.e. passing from the back, etc., and is willing to just basically let the board do whatever they want, whether that's getting rid of Gallagher, getting rid of Chalobah, and in terms of the recruitment process as well, he has a say, but he doesn't have the say. And so I think it fits very well in that regard. But, we're going to have our bumps. We're going to have our hurdles as well. But he has got us playing some fantastic football. And I love what he's done with some of our players. I think, actually, when Reece James does come back into the squad, this is a debate that we can have. There's an argument to be made that you continue playing Gusto on that right-hand side with Cucurella on the other side, because what that does is it gives you options. You can either invert Cucurella or Gusto, so it keeps people guessing a little bit. Whereas we saw in pre-season,
Gusto inverts as well, though. Like, he inverted a lot against Forest. I'm not saying he can't do it, but Cucurella is far better at that inverting.
I agree. But I think that you have that option. I don't think Reece James can do it whatsoever. So if we're looking,
I don't know if I agree with that, mate, because he's played in midfield before. Like he when he was on loan at Wigan, he was playing as a midfield player. But you also got to remember, though, if he does play and Cucurella inverts, Reece James is a lot better than Gusto playing that right centre back. So when it goes into a back 3 in possession and Reece is playing as a right centre back, that's going to suit Chelsea much. But Gusto can obviously do it, but he's not as good a right centre back as Reece James is.
I'm with you there. I mean, if we push James up the pitch, I'm all for it. If we put him in more of a centre-back role where he slides in, I'm for it as well. But I do think if Maresca goes down the route of inverting Reece James, that's just a big no-no for me. I mean, we saw it in pre-season and it didn't look good.
No, but we looked crap in pre-season, didn't we? Let's be honest.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. But I mean, you're asking me what I think in terms of Gusto and Reece James. Gusto is in the conversation more so this season than he was last. If Reece James was fit last season, Gusto, as much as he was fantastic, he never had a look in. And now there's at least a conversation. And I agree. That's a credit to Gusto and what he's done. And that's also, in part of the system the manager wants to play, I think complements both players in different ways, but only if you use them in the right way. So we haven't really had a chance to see in competitive matches whether Maresca will start James one way or the other. But my guess is, based on what I saw in pre-season, he will try and invert him. But I might be wrong. I hope I am. But look, we've got to make use of all the players we have. I think. I don't know where you want to start, Charlie. We can work our way up if we want.
But I think, as you said, though, mate, it's good to have the options available, even if you don't use them. It's nice to have that option there to think, do you know what? Okay, we can maybe switch things up a little bit. Instead of Cucurella's maybe not doing as well in inverting into midfield, let's see what Reece can do in there. Reece is probably better on the ball, got more quality on the ball than Cucurella does. I don't think that's a unfair thing to say against Cucurella. As brilliant as he's been for us, and James has got more quality on there. He probably is better in the center of the park. So yeah, the options we've got at our disposal are really encouraging. But I think the big test for us is going to be what happens when something goes wrong, because it's easy when things are going well, and things are going well right now. But inevitably, there's going to be a period. And you know what? It could be after this international break, next 4 league games, Liverpool, Newcastle, Man United, and Arsenal. There is a chance we could win none of those. Well, I'm not saying I want that to happen, but there's definitely a chance we could win none of those. And I think you're going to find out a lot more about the players, the manager, the team when things aren't going well compared to when things are. So we're still waiting to see how this team and how this manager responds when we have difficult moments. Look, we've shown that we can respond to difficult moments in game. But, right now, everything's been very positive around Chelsea, which is not something we're used to, certainly over the last couple of years. So it's one of those where you're sort of like, it almost feels too good to be true at the moment. And you're just waiting for that inevitable sort of downfall to come. But I mean, we're sitting 4th at the moment. It's early days. It's 7 games in. But from what I've seen so far, mate, I honestly think it's between us and Villa for 4th spot. Man United are an absolute joke. Spurs are not looking particularly special at all. I think Newcastle lacks squad depth massively. Even though they're playing once a week, that could help them. I honestly think it's between us and Villa for 4th spot from what I've seen so far. Would you think that's a fair assumption?
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you. I think at the moment, though, Villa are still favourites for that 4th position.
Even with Champions League?
Yeah, because you've got to remember, even with Champions League, like they have more depth than they had before. Like Duran's coming in, he slots in, he makes an impact. So if Watkins not scoring goals, they've still got a goal scorer. I think they've got a good defence. The midfield's pretty solid. Like I look at Villa and I don't really see, this part of Aston Villa's game isn't great. Like I just think they're all round quite a decent side. And Emery gives team stability. And he did it with Villarreal. He's already doing it with Villa. I don't think that's going to change. Like you've got to remember when he was at Villarreal, he took them to they won the Europa League.
Yeah, I think they knocked Arsenal out and then they beat United in the final.
Yeah, and then the next season they got to the semi-final of the Champions League. So I honestly think that it just gets better and better for Villa if they have Emery. The only thing that's going to stop them from doing that is just literally firepower from our side. So I don't think it's going to be a slip up from them. I think it's if we can keep up, which we can with a fit squad. But, one or two key players go out, then we're going to have issues. But then also you look at the Enzo Fernandez situation and you say, which I say, if I'm honest, if he's injured, I don't even think it's a big issue at times. I think actually it helps because there are games where I think he plays and he just doesn't make much of an impact. I thought he was okay against Brighton. And people said, I was chatting with Matt and Lewis after the game. They both thought he was brilliant. I said, you know what? I agree with you. He made some good passes. But apart from that, I'll be honest with you, Charlie, I don't really see it. And then against Nottingham Forest, I thought he was poor. So
he was poor against Forest for sure.
But he's the guy, Charlie, that you want to have breaking down a low block. And also, it's kind of counterintuitive the way we use him because you want him to be deep, but you want him to progress up the pitch. You can't play him deep because he's not solid enough defensively, and then you end up dropping Lavia or Caicedo, who both start ahead of Enzo Fernandez in this team when they're fit. So then what you're forced to do, you're forced to play him slightly further up the pitch, in the middle of the 10 and the 6. And that means at times he's got his back turned, not all the time, but at times. And, he's got to think a little bit quicker. And rather than everything going through him, it's a bit of everyone, to be honest with you, which isn't a bad thing in terms of the system. But it's not all about Enzo like it was under Graham Potter when, to be quite frank, he was fantastic. So, I look at Enzo and I look at the system and I think, if you could defend, I don't think this would be an argument. I think you'd start him every day of the week in his natural position, his best position. But because of the qualities he lacks, you don't get to see what he's good at because of that slight tweak, which only is slight, but makes a massive difference. Because, Charlie, let's be honest, if we're going bit by bit on Enzo Fernandez, you look at his shooting. Is it good enough? I think it's better than
It needs
Jorginho.
improvement for
It's
sure. It
better
needs
than Jorginho was, but it's
yeah,
still
of
not good enough.
course.
His passing's great.
Yeah.
But still very sloppy at times. He's not fast. He doesn't really cover enough ground in terms of when we deal with counter attacks. He's not quick enough. He doesn't win enough 50-50s. And that's the problem. And he's not versatile either. He only plays well in one position. So, I look at this guy and I see £100 million dilemma instead of £100 million superstar, and that's,
I mean,
that's the problem.
It's tricky because for me, like, there's no denying his quality on the ball. We haven't got anyone in midfield in the squad that can pass the football like he does with his range of passing. But then my concern with him is that his play off the ball is poor. Really off the ball, he's not very good. If we're being really honest, his play off the ball is not amazing. And too many times he's not really a physical midfield player, right? And that's fine. But then neither's Caicedo, and so you've got over £200 million of midfield worth of midfield, and you haven't got anyone that's a physical presence in there. So you're looking at it, and there's no wonder that we so often come up second best in physical battles in midfield. Now,
when you say physical battles, though, sorry, are you talking about 50-50s?
No, I just mean in general, like physicality. Just like, I mean, look, they're going to win. They will win duels. But if you look back at players we've had before, like Matic and players like that, and Essien and whatnot, physical, powerful guys. Enzo and Caicedo have got great skill sets, but you don't look at them and think any of those are physical or powerful midfield players. Now, I know the game's come on a little bit, but you need that sort of. I feel you need an enforcer type guy in the midfield. Now, I look at Enzo, and as you said, passing's great. He can set attacks up. He can do all these things. But for example, against Forest, right, he's playing in that more. He's playing as more of an advanced number 8, right, taking up that sort of. He's filling that sort of left half space, right. How many times we get the ball out wide to your Sanchos, to your Maduekes? There's zero box presence. All you've got in the box is Jackson every time they're looking up. If Enzo Fernandez playing as an advanced number 8, why is he not at the edge of the box? Why is he not in the box, offering an extra man? Like where is he? Because that's what your advanced number 8 should be doing. Frank Lampard made a career out of arriving late in the box and scoring goals. I'm not likening Fernandez to Lampard, but if you're going to be playing in that part of the pitch, in that role in midfield, then why are you not arriving late in the box? Where are you? Too many times for me, I'm a big fan of the player. I like him, but right now it does feel like no one's denying his quality. I think the issue is
his impact.
Is one, people have got far greater expectations because of the money spent, and obviously the money spent is not his fault, but with the bigger fees comes more expectation, and people expect more, and because people know how good he is, the expectations are going to go up. But I don't know what the solution to this is, because if we're being really honest, the midfield is probably better balanced with a Lavia Caicedo midfield in there, with Palmer as the number 10. But the problem you've got is that because you spent £100 million plus on a player, whether people agree with this or not, they're going to play. Now, I'm not saying the ownership are telling Maresca to play Fernandez. I'm not saying that by any accounts, but we know full well, having been through the Roman era, right? There is pressure from above when you've spent big money on a midfield on a player that they play. It's not going to look very good if Maresca benches Enzo Fernandez for 3, 4, 5 games or whatever, and he's cost 100 mil. There's going to be questions from above. So this signing needs to work. I'm not saying that it's not worked out, because I think it's too soon to say that, but there's far too many conversations at the moment surrounding Enzo in terms of, oh, he's not in his right position. Oh, we're not getting the best out of him. But is he getting the best out of himself? Is another question that we can ask. I look at him and I just think, sometimes I look at him and think, wow, this guy's great. And other times you just look at him and you just think, is he cut out for the Premier League? He's not very athletic, and that's fine. That's not an issue. But particularly if we get caught on the counter attack, or we get hit on a transition, he's not athletic enough, and he's not got the pace to get back.
If we were a team that sat deep and countered, then
Well, his
it
range
might
of
be a
passing would be
different
great.
conversation,
Yeah,
wouldn't
his
it?
range of
Because
passing would be so
he'd have
useful. Yeah.
support around him, and he'd be able to offload those passes. But because we're a team that obviously want to press from the front foot, and there are times where you're against Nottingham Forest, who's a low block, who want to counter, he gets caught out too easily there, and his back is turned to goal. It's just difficult to see him play the way he likes to play and he wants to play. But that's the dilemma. I mean, and the question you had before, Charlie, I'll just go back to it. I mean, I'm not saying these are realistic options, but I'm just saying if you wanted to dive in and say, well, what options are there if you want to get creative? You could play Dewsbury Hall there. You could play Chukwuemeka there. You could play Kasedi there in that position. And I'm not opposed to that, but I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon.
No, I would agree. We're not going to see that anytime soon. The problem is though, look, he's by the way, what I say is he's not the reason that we didn't beat Nottingham Forest. By the way, I want to make that perfectly clear. He had a poor game and whatnot. He wasn't the reason we didn't beat Forest. And I haven't looked at any of his performances this season in what we've dropped points in and gone, yeah, he's the reason why we've not played well today. No, he absolutely isn't, and he's not costing Chelsea points in that regard. But there is a conversation to be had, and you know, very much at the time last season when obviously he missed the last 6-7 games of the season and we won them all playing some of our best stuff, and there are people who were saying, oh, you know, it's because Enzo's not playing, and I didn't subscribe to that sort of trail of thought. But it's maybe you look at it and you think, maybe, like, is there a point to be made that Chelsea could maybe actually be a better side without Enzo Fernandez? Is fitting him into the team becoming a bit of an issue? Because for me, you want to play him in the deepest midfield role, but then I don't know if he's got the defensive discipline to play that role in the big games. I think it's fine, you know, against, you know, for example, a Forest or a Palace or these kind of teams at home. I think you can definitely get away with that. But if you're talking about the big boys, you know, against your Man Cities, your Arsenals, your Man Uniteds, your Liverpools away from home, would I be happy with Enzo Fernandez playing as a deepest lying midfield player at Anfield, at Old Trafford, at the Emirates, at the Etihad? I'm not sure I would be. I think I'd feel far more comfortable with Romeo Lavia playing in that position. So I don't really know what the solution is, but one needs to be found, because this guy is going to be playing. So it's on Maresca to find the best solution. But this is coming into a second manager now, where we're looking at it and we're thinking, well, how does he get the best out of Enzo? That's a problem. Whether people want to admit it or not, that is problematic.
I mean, against Liverpool, I wouldn't start Enzo. I don't think that. I mean, that's the worst game, in my opinion.
Well, mate, he's going to be captain. He's going to play. Like, whether we like it or not, he's playing.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Lavia and Caicedo. I mean, that just makes sense up against Gravenberch in the middle, and you got McAllister as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think that that's actually a bad argument. I think that's a realistic argument that could happen. You know, we look in there against Liverpool. You just want legs against Liverpool. You need legs, and also you're not going to go there and dominate the ball. So Maresca's proven, and this is actually credit to him again. Another myth that has just been thrown away straight away. I mean, 7 games in, we can already say, hand on heart, we know this manager's actually willing to adapt. He has his principles, but he's not going to go to a game and play football for the sake of playing football. If he knows you need to sit deep and counter, then that's what's going to happen, and it's effective. So I think that actually Maresca, I can see him lining up in a more intelligent way than, let's say, Pochettino, because, yeah, the way we set up at Anfield last year was just horrendous.
Oh, it's horrific, mate. We got absolutely hammered.
Mate, that's the thing. So what do I want? I want stability in the midfield. And I want to control the ball when we have it and break with speed. And if we are defending, then I want players who are going to be able to defend. And I don't look at Enzo Fernandez and think he's going to win that midfield battle respectfully.
The problem is, though, he hasn't got the pace. That's the issue. Like, he's what you want really from Enzo is for him to play sort of in a pivot, but in a team that's a lot of short passing, like, where he can have lots of touches of the ball. He can play short, he can play long from deep, and he can dictate games. But we're not playing like that right now. We need someone in there who can play short and long, can tackle, can win duels, and can cover a lot of ground, and can assist and score goals. And unfortunately, he's got the passing range. I'm not really sure if he's got the tackling. A number of 50-50s he doesn't win, and he doesn't cover a lot of ground. Plus, his GNA aren't great. For certain games, he's fine.
What are his stats? Do you know what his stats are in terms of GNA for Chelsea?
No, I don't think they're great. I think he scored about 6 or 7 goals last season. But look, he's not in the team for his goals. I understand that. But every good team has got goals from midfield. You need goals from midfield. And we had the best to ever do it in Lampard in terms of goals from midfield. But you look at the midfield now, and look, I know you can put more pressure on the attack because we've got so many quality options there, and you're not as reliant on goals from midfield. But I tell you what, if you can get them, it's a game changer if you can get them. We've got no goals in midfield. Lavia's not a goal scorer. Fernandes is not a goal scorer, and Caicedo's not a goal scorer. There's 0 goals in our midfield.
Well, that just calls for what I said before, because Chukwuemeka, I think he is a goal scorer, and Dewsbury Hall. I mean, Dewsbury Hall scored
goals last season, mate. He got 12 goals and 14 assists in the Championship last season, but the guy doesn't even make match day squads. Now, I don't want people to think we're sitting here saying that Dewsbury Hall should be playing instead of Enzo Fernandez. I don't think people are saying that. But if you're looking at GNA and goal contributions, Dewsbury Hall is got better GNA than Enzo Fernandez. Like that's not. I think that's an unpopular.
Well, it's real. It's a real stat. It's fact.
It's true. Obviously, he's not done it in the Premier League. Now, would Enzo get those the same stats as Dewsbury Hall in the Championship? Quite possibly. But for me, mate, I look at it and I just think we've got the wrong profiles in midfield. I think the midfield, the way that it's made up right now, is crying out for someone like an Ugochukwu, someone like an Andre Santos, for example. Intelligent footballers. The way that Chelsea have played over the years, and I know it's different now and football changes, but we've always had that physical enforcer type sort of guy in the midfield. Now, Lavia could be that, but I think Ugochukwu fits that profile more. I think Andre Santos fits that profile more. I just look at the profiles we've got in midfield, and I just think the profiles that we've signed, we've got 0 presence in either box. No presence in either box.
Is Santos a 6 at Strasbourg, though, right?
No, Strasbourg is. He's been playing as an 8, but he's an intelligent footballer, and he's a very complete midfield player as well. So he can do a little bit of everything. But I think his profile would probably suit the Enzo role better than what Fernandez is doing right now. But I was going to get to a few things in the chat and then we'll pick this back up. By the way, big up to everyone that's tuned in. Make sure you're smashing the likes, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. All of that good stuff. About 50 subscribers from 12k. It's been a slow burn to the 12k, but we are creeping closer. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you are. We're not in a title race. No, we're not saying we are in a title race. It's a point of discussion, mate. No title race, but Cole Palmer's cold as fuck. He is agreed. We'll have a better idea in December. Yep, agreed on that. Yeah, I mean, we are well overdue a win at Anfield. Well overdue. I don't think we've won at Anfield since COVID, which seems like a lifetime ago, but it's only a few years. But yeah, we are due a win there. No, by no means in a title race. That's not carried away. Of course, we've improved, but not enough to compete for the Prem. No, that's fair. Feeling international break anxiety. We suddenly have more players playing for their countries now. Yeah, but that's what you want. I mean, you're a successful team. That's what's going to happen, and we just have to accept that. We just have to accept that is the case right now. We did hammer them that year. I think we might have won like 4-1 or something at Anfield that year. I can't remember exactly. If Maresca was manager last season, where do we have ended up? I don't know.
Think it would be too dissimilar to where we finished.
I think it probably would have been. I reckon it would have been the same, mate. We could have maybe finished one space higher, but I don't think it would have been. I don't think it would have been too much different. James should be brought back in slowly, like how Nkunku was. James is not going to be rushed. He's not going to be rushed at all. Enzo good for certain games. I think, especially when we play in transition, most of our goals come from his initial pass. Yeah, that's obviously what he's good at. Is starting off attacks, picking the ball up from deep from the centre backs. Using his range of passing and setting those forward players free. But I have to be honest, out of possession and off the ball, he's a bit of a liability, and that's a side of his game that really needs to improve. Because against physical midfields, like, you're going to come unstuck. He's just going to get brushed off the ball. He's going to get out fought in those physical battles. So confessed Enzo fan will here, but I have to admit that at some stage the balance of the team has to take precedence over one player's cost. And yeah, no, I think that's absolutely fair. That at some point it may well come to that, but Maresca obviously rates Enzo Fernandez. He's made him the captain. He's part of the leadership group at Chelsea now, and unless he goes through a run of 4, 5, 6 games where he's completely shit, then this idea that it's going to be dropped, I just don't see it happening. I mean, mate, do you see it happening? Do you envisage a situation where we don't see Enzo in the starting 11 for sort of 2, 3 games on the spin for footballing reasons? I personally can't see that.
No, I can't either. Unless we drop points, unless we keep dropping points, then maybe you'll see something. But what I can envisage is next season, if we have Santos coming into the squad and other players who are able to play in that role, and let's just say Dewsbury Hall has a good season, even though he's restricted with game time, then there's a real argument to be had about dropping Enzo Fernandez. If the thing is as well, it's not just on the pitch why Enzo is important, because Maresca clearly values him on the pitch.
Yeah.
But he is a marketing machine for us. And there's some players that when you think of Chelsea, you think of these players. And I think that people think of Chelsea, and Enzo Fernandez is one of the first players that come to mind. So that's really important for the ownership. And that kind of doubles down on the fact that we're going to really push to get him playing regularly and playing well. Even if with another player, if the same thing happened, they would be dropped. So we've got to be aware that it's not just what happens on the pitch, it's the commercial side of things, which having American owners is probably more of a priority, if we're totally honest. So, it's unfortunate, but that's the situation we're in. I mean, I'm totally open as well, Charlie, because maybe in another world, Enzo Fernandez plays in that deeper role, like Caicedo, and actually things work out really well. And you've got other players who can break forward. You are slightly open, but hopefully you've got players like Cucurella who invert, who can help him out. So maybe that's something that we could try and do, especially against a low block. If Enzo is deeper, he doesn't have to keep up with the defender. He just has to hold his position. But again, it's like one of those things where, I don't know what the guy's name is who just commented. Even if you are an Enzo Fernandez fan, and there's a lot of people that love him, I like him, you can see there's a clear problem. And with any player, you solve the problem by putting another player in, and he's one of the only players that you can't do that with.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is true. Like, who else can you who's really going to replace him if we're being totally honest? Because
I mean, I'll be real, Charlie. Like, I would be very open to seeing Dewsbury Hall start some Premier League games, because although he started very slowly,
would you rather see? Would you be genuinely happy if you saw Dewsbury Hall in the starting lineup at Anfield?
Oh no, not Anfield, not Anfield.
No, just in general.
Just generally. No, definitely not Anfield. I mean, listen, who doesn't want to see a Dewsbury Hall banger at 90 minutes at Anfield? I'm here for it. Like,
I don't care who it is, mate. Just someone do it.
I'll be open to seeing him come off the bench, because he's got legs, and we don't have legs in that position. We don't have legs on the left wing either. Sancho covers as much ground as he can, but he's not renowned for having legs, let's be honest. So it's not even just that position, it's that whole left side. And you can kind of compensate for that in a way, because obviously Cucurella inverts, he comes a little bit further up. You got Jackson who naturally gravitates to the left a little bit more. But yeah, you just need a little bit more energy at times. So Anfield, for me, Enzo Fernandez doesn't start. I play with Caicedo and Lavia. That's more than enough time to recover for Lavia as well, don't you think? I mean, even if he doesn't get 90 minutes, give him 60.
Lavia played against he came on against Brighton. It was unused sub against Forest. I think he's fit, but obviously, like, and again, it comes back to it. It's the money, you know. These guys are going to play.
Mate, fucking Lavia costs a lot of money though. This is the thing. Like,
Well, yeah, but he didn't cost. Yeah, but he didn't cost. Yeah, but he didn't cost anywhere near 100 million quid, did he?
Price, but
and we saw, you know, all three of them start against Man City. I remember saying to you after the game, that one's like, for me, it doesn't work. Enzo Fernandez has got players of 10, and
we didn't invert in that game either, did we?
No, but there was no inverting in that game either. Yeah. Enzo Fernandez as a 10 is a no-no. You know, we didn't want to see it. We didn't want to see it last season under Poch. That was something the Eagles heavily criticised for, and that means you're shunting Palmer out to the right wing, which doesn't help him or the team, to accommodate an extra midfield player in a role that doesn't suit him. Like it simply doesn't make sense. But it's going to be an interesting one to see kind of how that develops moving forward. It is going to be very, very interesting because right now it is a topic of conversation. It is a situation that you look at it and you think, right, okay, it's not, you know, whilst the team's winning and doing well, it's not as big an issue because you're winning. And so you can kind of brush over it a little bit. But if we go on a run and we start losing games and we go for a difficult period and he's still not really, you know, putting in the performance levels that one would expect, then it becomes more of an issue. But as I said, you know, I think because you're winning, it doesn't matter as much because the team's doing well, and therefore you can kind of glaze over any potential issues within the side. But yeah, it could be an issue if we you know, go for a difficult period where we're not winning games. I mean, mate, talking of you know, we've discussed the midfield. I mean, the attack's looking good. We upgraded in the summer. We added some more players into the mix. We added Neto in there. We added Jadon Sancho, and we added Joao Felix. Sancho's probably had the most impact out of the three of them, I would say, so far. But what have you made of the attack? Because last season, scoring goals wasn't really that much of an issue. And certainly this season, it doesn't seem to be an issue either. I remember I was a little bit reserved, a little bit sort of unsure at the time. Do we really need to sign Sancho? Was that necessary? But, you know, the way that it looks now, the two options for the left side, two options for the right side, two options for in the middle, and two options at number 10. You know, you can't really argue with that squad building. I mean, how impressed with the attack have you been? Because, you know, a lot of the time now, I feel like when we're going forward, like we could score at any point.
Yeah, I think Sancho's a bargain. Not only did the guy take a pay cut, but we literally got him for
it's going to be 25 minutes.
A third of what Man United paid for him. So yeah, fantastic business. And that's obviously the model with Clearlake and what they want to implement. And you can't criticize that. I think the only thing that you then say is when you get to a certain stage, it's almost like Tottenham, right? Unless it's exactly the right player, exactly the right time, exactly the right cost, you're never going to be able to sign players. And we saw with Osimhen, for example, players like that who you would class as elite in modern day football. It's going to be difficult to get deals over the line. But yeah, he's a gem. I love what I've seen from him. I think Neto and Madueke, there's still very much competition there, even though Madueke did bag against Nottingham.
Madueke's done well.
Yeah. Oh, no, 100%. Madueke's done well, but that's the only position where I look at a player and I say, I see Palmer starting every week. We see Jackson starting every week, and we see Sancho starting every week. But I don't see Madueke starting every week. And that's not because he's a bad player. It's because I think him and Neto are kind of neck and neck competing for that position. So, you know, they offer different things. Obviously, Madueke, you know, he runs at players. He's looking to score goals, a little bit more selfish. And I guess you could say that complements the other side. Bear in mind, Sancho's the other side of the coin. But then Neto, he brings a lot of energy. He brings something that you get from a player like Jackson. Palmer probably does it as well. Just serial presser, tracks back. He does his defensive duties. and more than capable of scoring goals as well. Even though actually, if you look at his GA for Wolves, it's not that impressive.
Most of the time injured.
That 100%. But you know what he's shown in the past couple of games against Barrow and Ghent is that he is a player who's capable of scoring goals and getting into those positions. And it's a different way to, Madueke, who might dribble past one or two and then have a crack. But what Neto will do is he will open up spaces for other players around him as well, make those unselfish runs. So I like both of them. Me personally, I would have started Neto against Nottingham Forest. It turned out that Madueke was the right decision and he scored a great goal. But I just rotate the two as it stands. And I would probably give Madueke a chance against Liverpool as well, just because if there is a player, especially when you're trying to break a press and get in behind, Madueke is capable of doing that. But again, it depends on the game plan as well. If we're looking to pass out, I play Madueke. If we're looking to counter, I probably play Neto. So, it really depends. So, I mean, how do you see it?
Mate, to be honest, right now, like with the way that we're playing, I think that the best thing for me is that so far on a small sample size we've got is that we're not reliant on Cole Palmer like we were last season.
100%. It's spread out.
It very much feels. Look, he's still the main man. I don't think there's any denying that. But we're not looking to him to produce something in order for us to win matches. If he does do it, and he does it more often than not, fantastic. But we're not relying on him to score goals, to win games of football. He's had ineffective games this season where he's been marked out of the game. For example, against Bournemouth, he didn't have a very good game. It didn't matter. It didn't really matter because we had other players that stepped up. I know he scored against West Ham, but he didn't have a particularly effective game. We subbed him off after an hour. Imagine subbing Cole Palmer off after an hour last season. That would just be waving the white flag, accepting defeat. You might as well end the game at that point. So for me, like that's the big positive is that the others, the supporting cast are stepping up. Jackson's had a good start to the season. He was crap against Forest. His worst game of the season by far. Not really sure what happened to him, but he just wasn't very good. But Madueke stepped up. He's got 4 goals in 7. Jackson's got 4 goals in 7. Palmer 6 goals this season. Sancho 3 assists in 4 appearances. You've got guys that are contributing. And everyone always talks, and we banged on about it a lot in the summer. Everyone talks about, we needed a striker, 20 goals a season striker. But actually, if you can share out the G&A between sort of 3-4 attacking players, then you don't actually need that 20 goals a season striker. If you've got sort of 4 or 5 players chipping in with between 10 to 15 goals a season, which I think we can definitely do that. I think you can have Jackson, Madueke, Palmer, and maybe Sancho could chip in with that. You've got players contributing with those sorts of numbers, which I believe that we do. Then you don't actually need that 20 goals a season striker. So, mate, I'm really happy with what I'm seeing from us going forwards. Felix has been, for me, a bit disappointing. I didn't have particularly high expectations. People that watch regularly will know throughout the summer, I wasn't really that, on board with signing him because he's just a bit of an enigma. I just think the reality of him is the idea of him is far greater than the reality. He's just one of those players to me that's pretty on the eye, but his actual end product is pretty crap. And what does he bring to the Chelsea team that we're missing? I personally don't feel that he brings anything. I want to be proven wrong on things. I've said it many, many times before that I want to be proven wrong. But so far, I'm not seeing anything to suggest that he's just a bit of a, he's just a guy that's aesthetically pleasing and doesn't really do anything to influence games of football. I mean, mate, what have you made of Felix?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Obviously, it was nice when he come on, scored his first goal against Wolves.
Yeah.
What a great goal as well.
It was a nice goal, yeah.
But yeah, I think it was an upgrade on what we had, to be honest with you. I think he's better for us than Sterling, and I think he was an upgrade on Mudryk as well. And that's as a player who can be versatile. I mean, he can play on the wing if you have to, but ideally you want to play him in that 10. Yeah, he's not going to get any minutes ahead of Palmer, is he? So
Right.
he's a player that's there just to cover, and you can't count on him like you count on Cole Palmer. So again, we go back to what we said towards the beginning of the video. If Palmer gets injured, everything changes.
But
And
I think
I feel like
I'd rather Nkunku plays in the 10. If Palmer's injured, I'd rather Nkunku play in that 10 than Felix.
well, this is the thing, and maybe that's what Maresca would do. But what if he was that stringent? He said, "No, this is your position." I wouldn't really want to lean on João Felix for that. But I think he was an upgrade on what we had with some of the other players. I think that based on what we saw with Mudryk already, he was an upgrade, and I thought Sterling was crap. And I think João Felix is still an upgrade on Sterling, to be totally honest with you. And also, you've got to remember, it's also value for money, which we go back to Enzo Fernandez. We're not paying João Felix anywhere near what we paid. I would say he was one of the replacements for Sterling. So I don't expect as much from him as I would have expected from another player. That being said, you're still going to have standards. It's too early to tell. We look at this in January. Maybe we have a different conversation. There's going to be heavy rotation in the Christmas period. He'll get a lot more minutes. So if we look at this 15, 20 games down the line and we're looking at 3 GA, then it's not great, is it? But I don't think it will be quite that bad. I think that you'll see some goals to come from him, especially against other sides. But he should have scored against Forest. He had an easy opportunity. Everyone's talking about Nkunku. At least
he should have scored as well. He should have scored as well.
He should have scored more than Nkunku because Nkunku tested the keeper. The guy didn't even get it on target. That's rule one of football if you're a striker. Put the ball in the net. I mean, didn't even do that. So even if there was no goalkeeper, he still wouldn't have scored it. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much to say about him. I mean, you can probably agree with me on this, Charlie. He is an upgrade based on a lot of the players that we had at that time. I mean, you look at that number 10 position, there isn't any cover.
We didn't really have anyone. We literally had Palmer.
I mean, actually, I say that. I think Chukwuemeka would be very good cover. But, he's not in our plans. So maybe we could see him as an 8. I mean, fuck knows. We've got a lot of players rotting that don't necessarily need to be, but I'd rather have more players than less, man, because the way modern football is, not to mention the fact that we've got the Club World Cup after the season's done and European football, we need all the players we can get because one injury changes everything. And I don't actually think that we are past the point of seeing more signings in January. Bear in mind how congested the fixtures are going to be.
I don't know I don't think we need anything in January.
We don't need it as it stands, Charlie, but obviously circumstances change.
No, of course. I agree, mate. I'm happy with what we're doing. With what we're doing right now. Attack's looking good. Just on Palmer, by the way, mate. Obviously, ridiculous season last season. Exceeded
the Ballon d'Or, mate.
Exceeded all expectations from everyone. He's carrying that on this season. He's had a brilliant start to the campaign. He's got 6 goals and 5 assists in the first 7 matches. Ridiculous 4-goal haul against Brighton. The kid's just got everything. How good do you think this guy is? Because I don't want to compare him to like Hazards and Zolas and whatnot. We've been blessed over the years to have some very, very talented footballers.
You can.
Charlie, for this club. No, you can. But what I mean is, mate, how good do you think this guy is? Because what he's doing, considering he hadn't even scored a Premier League goal before the start of last season, he's got 44 goal contributions since the start of last season. That's more than any other player in the Premier League. What he's doing is absolutely ridiculous.
Mate, if Cole Palmer keeps going the way he's going, he is going to win the Ballon d'Or.
At some point, yeah.
Oh, no. This year. He will win the Ballon d'Or.
I think
he keeps going the way he's been going. Mate, it's criminal how good he is. It's criminal.
He is ridiculous.
Also, if you look at like world football, you've not got Messi, you've not got Ronaldo to worry about anymore. You've got Mbappe, who's doing all right at Madrid. But if I'm not wrong, Cole Palmer's having a better season than him so far.
Mbappe's not done like anything ridiculous at Madrid. Obviously, there's like Vinicius Junior, Erling Haaland. Haaland's obviously a different type of player. He's very much an out-and-out striker. I just feel like Palmer kind of does it all.
This is what I'm talking about, Charlie. And let's just presume, right? We're at the end of the season. Palmer's numbers unbelievable. What are we saying? 25 goals, 15 assists. I think that's realistic for a player of that caliber, bearing in mind what he got last season when he didn't have the firepower behind him. Now he's got players that are actually supporting him. So when he makes that pass to Madueke, like he did against Nottingham Forest, instead of it just being fluffed up, it turns into an assist. He's getting the conversions on the free kicks. He's already our penalty taker as well. And not to mention he's getting called up for England now, even if it's a fucking left back. But we'll see how that goes.
Mate, that's the next step for him, isn't it? Like establishing himself within the England setup. Like it's very clear what his role is at Chelsea, but right now, when you've got a player playing that well, he has to be playing for England on a regular basis.
He will start ahead of Phil Foden every day.
I agree. He should play ahead of Foden for England. I don't really think there's that much of a debate to be had about it. But guys, keep smashing the like button. By the way, we need 20 more likes to hit 50. This is poor conversion rate at the moment.
Oh, come on, guys.
Guys, come on. What guys, what are we doing here? Make sure you're smashing the like button. Make sure you're subscribing as well. Let's get us to 50 likes as quickly as possible, people. There's literally zero excuse not to be hitting the like button. So make sure you're running
it up. There's no loyalty anymore. There's no loyalty.
No loyalty. People will just watch, take on the content, but they're not prepared to hit the little thumbs up button, which actually helps more than most people realize. So guys, come on. What are you playing at? Smash that like button, get up to 50 likes. Someone in the chat can let me know when we're on 50. Expect that in the next 5 minutes, people. So get to work, guys. Let's get to a few things in the chat quickly.
But Charlie, I had one other question for you.
Yeah.
If you put Phil Foden in the Chelsea team from last season and give him the Cole Palmer role, what happens?
I don't know.
Fuck all happens. That's
I think what makes Palmer's achievement so great is because he'd done it in a team that was very much struggling. I don't want to diminish Foden's achievements because what he did last season was outstanding for Man City. But that's in a Man City team that is winning every week and is, he's surrounded by top class players, and that does make it a little bit easier. Let's be honest. And what Palmer's doing in a team that is not performing particularly well is outstanding, absolutely outstanding. So, mate, long may it continue, mate. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, look, the question surrounding him this season was very much, can he replicate or do better than what he managed last season? If his start to the season's anything to go by, mate, for me, there's no reason why he can't get similar numbers again. And then you really are talking about him as being, one of the best players in the world.
He's there.
The only thing what I would say and what people have said is that is the amount of time that he's been doing it for. And I understand that, because how many times have we seen players put together a good 12 or 18 months and they just disappear and they just revert back to a level they can never hit again? I'm not saying that's going to be the same with Palmer, but if he can, I think you can really be in the conversation about being world class, about being up there with the world's best. If he has another season similar to last season this time round, then that's going to be then he's right up there in that topic of conversation. There's literally no denying it whatsoever. When do they announce the player? I think that's tomorrow. They announce the manager of the month and the player of the month tomorrow. I believe that to be the case.
They take their time, actually.
They do take their time.
Weeks after.
Well, yeah. What is it now? October 10th. Yeah, it's just it's going to end up being almost 2 weeks after September finished. Oh, this is what it is, mate. Thoughts on this? Do you, mate? What do you think on the Jackson and Nkunku thing? I mean, we spoke about this before, but the reason why Jackson's in the team is because he offers way more to the side than Nkunku does. They're different skill sets for sure, but Nkunku doesn't run in behind. He doesn't stretch the play. He doesn't pull centre backs out of position and create space for others. Yes, if I want a chance to fall to someone, I'd rather it fall to Nkunku than Jackson, because his finishing is a lot better, and Nkunku's obviously better in kind of tight spaces. But other than that, Jackson's skill set is superior, and the way that we play is it suits a Nicholas Jackson style player much more than an Nkunku. Nkunku's not running in behind. He's not getting in behind. He's not making life difficult for centre backs. That's why he's not playing on a regular basis for this team.
Yeah, I think It just depends game by game how you do it. I mean, I would have never started Jackson against Nottingham Forest. I would have started.
I would have bought Nkunku on earlier.
I would have started Nkunku. I think that if that's the argument we're going to make, and if that's what we're trying to read Enzo Maresca's mind, then you have to look at it from both sides. So if you're against the team that presses and you've got lots of space, you want to open them up like Brighton and make runs in behind, stretch the defense. Jackson's very good. He also complements Cole Palmer more than anyone. They have, if I'm not wrong, the best link up in the league so far this season.
Yeah.
In fact, if I'm not wrong, it's the best link up since Cole Palmer's arrived at Chelsea. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, clearly there's a chemistry there. And if a player like Jackson is making your best player even better, then that's the first thing. Because even if he's not scoring goals, is Palmer. And maybe Jackson's part of that. So you can think about that.
It's about partnerships as well, not necessarily the best players.
And then, yeah, from just the Nkunku standpoint, I mean, he does need to start more games. I think that Maresca is still trying to ease him in and also give Jackson the confidence because I think he's a player that thrives on confidence, not so much Nkunku. Nkunku has a lot more class, a lot more quality, and he's just ready-made, and Jackson isn't. But Jackson is probably the most improved player since last season alongside Cucurella in this Chelsea side. His hold-up play compared to when we started off last season is a million times better. And then I see a player like Nkunku. I don't know if he wins those duels. But then you're right. If you look at a player and you're one-on-one with the keeper, I think Nkunku scores the majority and Jackson probably misses the majority, to be totally fair. But also you've got to look at how many chances you then create. And if Jackson's getting into 5 goal-scoring positions per game and being serviced for that, then he only needs 1 chance to score. Whereas Nkunku doesn't get himself into as many goal-scoring positions because of the lack of runs that he makes compared to Jackson. So that's why when he has a chance, he scores it, but he doesn't necessarily get himself
he's not creating the chances.
Well, he does, but I mean, it's just different. So, yeah, I mean, against Liverpool, I still start Jackson. I mean, who do we have after Liverpool?
Newcastle at home.
Newcastle at home.
And then
I'd love to see Nkunku start in the away game against Newcastle.
Actually. Well, I think he'll start in the cup, mate.
I think he'll also start against Panathinaikos. So it's not like he won't get any minutes. Jackson will start against Liverpool, Newcastle at home. Nkunku will play Panathinaikos, Newcastle away. And then, I mean, literally, if you look at it on a game-by-game basis, it's almost one and then the other.
Because that week, the next 2 weeks coming up is mad, though, isn't it? It's like Liverpool, then Panathinaikos, then back-to-back against Newcastle, then Man United away, and then Arsenal at home.
Oh, what a life, Charlie. We love it, mate. Is there any games? I know you can't make Panathinaikos. Are you going to Newcastle? Or?
Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah, Newcastle away in the cup in the week. Why not?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I've got a ticket for that if you want one.
I think I've already got it. I've already sorted it, mate. Yeah.
Your father sorted it.
No, mate. Michael sorted it because he can't make it. So he said, "Oh, do you want it?" So I was like, "Yeah, go on, man." The guy, yeah.
Nice. That's the nice thing about going to games as well, guys. Because even if you don't go to a lot of games, you go to games and you start talking to people. Most of the time, I think you probably agree with me on this, Charlie. People that go to the games don't get tickets through the club. They just get tickets through other people.
Yeah.
And that just seems to be the norm. Like everyone's like, "Oh, where do I buy a ticket for this?" And I'm like, I'll be real. I just call Ricky or or someone like that.
Yeah,
it's different.
Yeah, mate. Pete, yeah, exactly, mate. It's actually quite difficult to get tickets through the club. I'll be honest. Like it is quite tricky. But yeah, I mean, mate, just to round out, how are you feeling about the run coming up after the international break? It's gonna. I don't want to say it's make or break for the season because that seems a bit over the top for October, November, but I think we'll find out whether this team is capable of finishing in the top 4 based on this next run of games. I mean, how are you feeling heading into them?
I feel confident. I think we should all feel confident. We've only got one injury, so yeah, we've got pretty much a full fit squad. Got a lot of confidence. I think also we're playing Liverpool at a great time because as far as I'm concerned with Liverpool, they haven't really been challenged. Let's be honest. I mean, Nottingham Forest, that's fine.
Same as us, yeah.
Nottingham Forest would challenge any team away from home that's in the top 6 just because of the way they play. So, you know, what we're going to do is we're going to take the game to Liverpool, and that's what they haven't had. So I can see, honestly, the way we're trying to play, I see us winning all of our Premier League games in October. So that's Liverpool, Newcastle. I think Panathinaikos will do well. The only concern might be Newcastle in the Carabao Cup because we do have a pretty rotten record at St James's, but me and you are going to be there anyway, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, mate, that's the one that I'm probably the most, I'll say, concerned. But like, you look at sort of in terms of winning trophies and that, and the League Cup along with the Conference League probably our 2 best chances of silverware. Mate, the record at Newcastle is not good. We got to be real. The record there is not good. So yeah, we need to. Yeah, obviously we're going to try and win every game. We're not going to win every game. That's just the way it goes. We're not going to win every game. Like people need to realise that it simply isn't going to happen. So yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking really on this one, mate. It's going to be. You've got to feel confident because of the form that we're in. Like if you can't head into a tough run of games coming up like we've got on the form that we're in, then when are you ever going to feel confident about Chelsea doing well? So we've got to feel confident. But like I think against Liverpool, we're going to get chances, no doubt about it. You know, we're going to get chances, but it's just going to come down to whether we take them. And then defensively, that's also where you're looking at it and you think, right, okay, against the big sides, defensive errors we've made against Brighton, defensive errors we've made, you know, against other teams haven't been too costly because the level of opposition hasn't been amazing. Whereas you make errors like Sanchez made against Brighton, you do that against Liverpool, for example, the game's done. You can't give 2 goals away against Liverpool. You can't defend set pieces sloppily against the likes of Arsenal. You find yourself 3 or 4 goals down very quickly. So yeah, that would be my main concern. But yeah, mate, seems like a good place to round out. Thank you for your time as always, bro. It's greatly appreciated. Mate, if people want to check out what you do and stuff and they don't know for whatever reason, let them know.
What we do, Charlie.
Well, what we do as well, but what you do, mate, as well. You know, you got the old Instagram popping off and all that.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. You can follow my Instagram, ACHVLOG. There you go, if you want to follow that. But
yeah.
Otherwise, check out Chelsea Fan TV.
Yeah, loads of stuff going on there, guys. It's tagged in the title. All you got to do is click it, head over there, check out all the latest Chelsea news and everything else that's going on in the world of Chelsea. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it as always. Make sure you're smashing the like button on the way out. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new around here. I'll probably be back tomorrow as well with some other stuff coming up. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. But yeah, guys, until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday afternoon. Whatever you're doing, thanks for the support. It is greatly appreciated. And I'll catch you guys in another one soon.